I discovered my family's dark secret through a hidden letter and fought for our future, read its stories. I always thought I knew everything about my family. Our history was clear, each generation following the same path of tradition, values, and love. My parents, both hardworking and loving, were the rock of our small family. Their marriage, though not perfect, always seemed unbreakable. My older brother, Adam, had always been the golden child, the one who excelled at everything he did, from school to sports to social life. And me, I was the quiet, observant one, content with being the sibling who stayed out of trouble, carving my own path in the shadows of my more outgoing family members. We lived in a modest home on a quiet street in the suburbs. Our life was simple, comfortable, with all the familiar routines that made it feel like we were immune to the world outside. Sunday dinners, Christmas celebrations, birthdays with homemade cakes, everything was predictable, safe, and warm. It felt like the perfect family. But all of that changed the day I found the letter. It was an old envelope, tucked away in the back of a drawer in my mom's desk. The kind of drawer that was usually filled with bills, receipts, and old holiday cards. I had no particular reason to go through it, except for the fact that I was looking for a pen. But when I opened the drawer and saw the yellowed envelope, curiosity took over. It was addressed to my mother, written in a handwriting I didn't recognize, the ink smudged, as if it had been sealed in a hurry. I pulled it out, my heart beating a little faster for reasons I couldn't explain. The envelope was sealed, but I could feel that something was inside, thick and heavy with information I wasn't supposed to know. Without thinking, I broke the seal. Inside, there was just one sheet of paper. The handwriting was elegant but strange, almost too formal for someone I would expect my mother to know. I started reading. "Dear Alice, I know the truth about your past. You've kept it hidden for so long, and I've been patient. But I can't stay silent anymore. The truth needs to be told, for your sake and for your family's sake. There are things about your history that even your husband doesn't know, things that will change everything. You need to meet me. I'm not far, and I have the answers you've been searching for your whole life. With all due respect, R." I stared at the letter for what felt like hours, my mind spinning. The name, Elise, my mother's name, was written clearly, yet the message seemed like it was written for someone else. It felt like a secret that had been buried deep, something that shouldn't have been uncovered, yet here it was, staring back at me. My mom had never mentioned anything like this before. What truth was this letter talking about? What had she hidden from us? I folded the letter carefully, unsure of what to do next. A part of me wanted to put it back, to pretend I'd never found it. But the other part of me, the part that couldn't stop thinking about the cryptic words, urged me to keep going. I had to find out more. That night, when everyone was asleep, I decided to confront my mother. I wasn't sure how to approach it, but I couldn't ignore the growing need to understand what this letter meant. I found her sitting at the kitchen table, the dim light casting shadows across her face as she sipped her tea. She didn't notice me standing at the doorway, frozen, letter clutched in my hand. "Mom," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked up, surprised, her eyes narrowing slightly as she saw the letter in my hand. For a moment, there was silence, and I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator in the background. "Where did you find this?" she asked, her voice calm but guarded. I found it in your desk," I admitted, stepping closer. "Who is R? And what's this about the truth?" Her expression hardened. For the first time in my life, I saw something in her eyes that I had never seen before, fear. She set her cup down and motioned for me to sit. Her hands trembled slightly as she folded them together. "You weren't supposed to find that," she said quietly. "But now that you have, I suppose you deserve to know the truth." I sat down, my heart racing. What could be so terrible that it had to be hidden for so long? What was she keeping from us? My family. She began, taking a deep breath. "Has always had secrets, and I've carried the heaviest one of all. I thought I could protect you from it, but it looks like it's catching up with me." I didn't know what to say. My mind raced, trying to piece together the puzzle, but all I could do was listen. "When I was your age, I met someone. R was someone from my past, someone I thought I could trust. But he betrayed me, and in the process, he hurt people I loved. He made me do things, say things, that I can never take back. Things that would destroy everything we've built if they came to light." "Is it about Dad?" I asked, my voice trembling. "No," she whispered. "It's not about your father. This is about me, and the choices I made before I even met him. R knows everything, and he's been waiting for the right moment to expose it." "Expose what?" "That's the part I never wanted you to know," she replied, her eyes misting over. "The family I come from is not what you think, and the person I used to be is not who I am now." Her words hung in the air, a heavy weight I couldn't lift. Everything I thought I knew about my mother, about our family, was starting to unravel, and I was terrified of what would happen when it all came crashing down. "Why didn't you tell us?" I asked, my voice cracking. "What didn't you tell me?" "I wanted to protect you," she said, her voice breaking. "I wanted to keep you safe from the consequences of my mistakes. But it's all going to come out soon, whether we're ready or not. I just didn't want you to hate me." Hate her? How could I hate her when I didn't even understand what she was talking about? I wanted to ask her everything, to demand answers, but the words felt stuck in my throat. "Who is R?" I managed to say. "Someone from a long time ago," she said softly, "someone who could ruin everything. But I won't let him. I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe." As she spoke, I realized how much more complicated our family's history was than I could have ever imagined. There was a darkness lurking beneath the surface of our perfect little life, and it was about to break through. And as I sat there, the letter burning in my hand, I knew one thing for sure. Nothing would ever be the same again. The days following my conversation with my mother were a blur. I barely remember the meals, the usual chatter at the dinner table, or the lazy weekend afternoons that once felt so comfortable. All of it seemed distant now. The letter, the secret, my mother's cryptic words. Everything consumed me, and I couldn't let go. What had she been involved in? What choices had she made that had left such a deep scar on our family? And why had she kept it from us for so long? I didn't sleep much that night, my mind racing with 1,000 questions. Every creak of the house felt ominous. Every shadow in the corners of my room seemed to hold some hidden truth. But I couldn't ignore the fact that I had more questions than answers. I needed to know more. The next morning, I tried to act normal. I greeted my father at the kitchen table, the warmth of his smile doing little to ease the weight that pressed on my chest. Adam was still in bed, his usual teenage sloth mode. My mother, as always, was busy preparing breakfast, seemingly oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I watched her closely, trying to read her every movement. Was there a hint of guilt in her posture, a sign of fear in the way her hands trembled as she set the plates on the table? I couldn't tell. She had always been so composed, so in control of everything. But now, she was a stranger to me, her secret and invisible wall between us. "Mom," I said, my voice steady but forced. "Can I talk to you again? I need to know more about what you said last night." Her face softened, and she sat down next to me. She looked tired, as though she hadn't slept either. The bags under her eyes seemed deeper, and for the first time in my life, I noticed how much older she looked. Her secrets had aged her in ways I couldn't understand. "I told you everything I could, sweetheart," she replied softly. "But I can't go back and change the past. I've tried to protect you, to shield you from the things I did wrong, but now it's too late." "Too late for what?" I asked. "What's going to happen?" "I don't know," she admitted, her voice breaking. "But I'm afraid that R will come after us. He'll do whatever it takes to expose me, to ruin our family. And if that happens, we won't be able to fix it." I leaned forward. gripping the edge of the table. "What didn't you tell me about him?" "About everything. I didn't want you to hate me," she said again, her voice trembling. "And I didn't want you to carry the burden of knowing what I've done. But now it's your responsibility too. You need to understand that this is bigger than just our family. It involves people you don't even know, people who can do a lot of damage." The weight of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I had always thought our family was just like any other. We had our problems, sure, but nothing that couldn't be fixed with love and patience. But now, I was being forced to see the cracks in the foundation. My mother was hiding something dark, something that could shatter everything I had ever known. "Mom, what do you mean by people you don't even know? Who else is involved in this?" She hesitated, her eyes flicking nervously toward the hallway as if she was afraid someone might overhear. "There are people from my past, people I knew before your father. They're dangerous, and they're not going to stop until they get what they want." "What do they want?" I asked, feeling my pulse quicken. She leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. They want control, power, and they'll use anything to get it. My past, it's connected to them. They have leverage over me, and now they're coming for us." "Leverage," I echoed, my mind racing. "What do they have on you?" "I can't say yet," she replied. "But just know that it's something that could destroy everything we've built. I've kept it hidden for so long, but now it's all coming to light." I felt the room close in on me. The air seemed thicker, the walls pressing in as the weight of her words sank in. My family wasn't what I thought it was. My mother wasn't who I thought she was. And whatever this our person had on her, it was more than just a simple mistake. It was something big, something that could unravel our entire world. Later that day, I decided to do something I hadn't dared to do before. I reached out to R. I didn't know what I expected to find, but I needed answers. I needed to know who this person was, what they knew, and what they wanted from us. I found an old email address tucked away in the letter, one that seemed to be the only trace of ours existence. Hesitating only for a moment, I typed a quick message, hoping that it would reach whoever it was. "I want to know the truth. What do you know about my family? What do you want from us?" I hit send before I could second guess myself. Hours passed. No reply. I tried to focus on other things. Homework, my brother's incessant teasing. But my mind kept wandering back to that letter. What would happen if R responded? What would they say? And what would my mother think if she knew I was contacting them? The answer came the next morning when I checked my phone. A single email. I held my breath as I clicked on it, my hands trembling. "You've been curious, that's good. But be careful what you wish for." The message was short, cryptic, and chilling. There was a coldness to it, a sense of finality that made my skin crawl. And then, at the bottom of the email, there was a sentence that sent a shiver down my spine. "Meet me at the old warehouse on Elm Street. I'll give you what you want to know. But be warned, you may not like what you hear." My heart raced. I stared at the email for a long time, unsure of what to do. Should I go? Should I tell my mother? But before I could make up my mind, my phone buzzed again. It was a message from her. "Don't go to the warehouse. It's a trap." The text was simple, urgent, and it confirmed everything I feared. R was playing a game, and I was the pawn. But I had already made up my mind. I needed to know the truth, no matter the cost. As I prepared to leave, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The secrets that had been hidden for so long were about to come to light, and there was no going back. My family's world was on the brink of collapse, and it was up to me to decide how far I was willing to go to uncover the truth. I couldn't believe what I was about to do. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to turn back, to tell my mother everything, to play it safe and forget this whole thing. But the part of me that needed answers, that couldn't stand the weight of the uncertainty pressing on my chest, kept pushing me forward. The truth was out there, and I was going to find it, no matter the cost. I sat in my car, parked a few blocks away from the old warehouse on Elm Street. The towering building loomed ahead, its windows dark and cracked, its rusted metal gates hanging loosely as though abandoned for years. The place looked like it belonged in a horror movie, the kind of spot you only saw in the background of eerie scenes, just waiting to be discovered by the protagonist who should have known better. But there I was, the protagonist of my own story, and I had no idea what I was walking into. I checked my phone again. The text from my mother was still there, the simple, urgent warning, "Don't go to the warehouse. It's a trap." But I had already made up my mind. I couldn't go back now. If R had been waiting this long to reveal something, to tell me what they knew about my mother's past, I was going to hear it. Whatever it took. I took a deep breath and stepped out of the car, the cold night air biting at my skin. The streets were eerily quiet, and the only sound was the faint rustle of leaves in the wind. I made my way toward the warehouse, my footsteps echoing in the stillness. The warehouse looked deserted, but I knew better. R was somewhere inside, watching, waiting, and I was walking right into their trap. The doors creaked open with a groan as I pushed them, the smell of mildew and decay hitting me like a punch. The inside of the warehouse was just as bleak as the outside. Dim, flickering lights hung from the high ceilings, casting long shadows across the rows of abandoned crates and rusted machinery. The space felt vast, empty, but alive with the tension of something waiting to happen. Every instinct told me to turn around, to run, but I had come this far. I couldn't stop now. "Hello," I called, my voice cracking in the silence. A figure stepped out from behind a stack of crates, and for a moment, I froze. The person was tall, their features obscured by the shadows. I couldn't make out their face, but I could feel their eyes on me, cold and calculating. "You came," the figure said, their voice smooth, almost too calm. "I wasn't sure you would, but you did." I swallowed hard, trying to keep my composure. "Who are you?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Or you are." The figure stepped forward, their silhouette becoming clearer. It was a man, dressed in a dark coat, his face hidden by a hood. He didn't speak right away, just watched me with an intensity that sent a chill down my spine. Then, slowly, he pulled back his hood, revealing a face I recognized immediately. R. I breathed, the name falling from my lips in disbelief. The man standing before me wasn't a stranger. He was someone I had seen only once before, years ago, in the faintest memory from my childhood. It was a memory I had buried deep inside me, one I never thought I would need to recall. But here he was, a ghost from the past, the man who held the key to the secret my mother had kept hidden for so long. "You don't remember me?" he said, his voice tinged with bitterness. "But I remember you. And I remember your mother." I took a step back, trying to make sense of what was happening. "What do you want? Why are you doing this?" R's lips curled into a faint smile, but there was no humor in it. "I'm doing this because it's time for the truth to come out. Your mother thought she could bury her past, keep it hidden away forever. But secrets like hers never stay buried for long, they always come back." "Why?" I asked, my voice shaky. "Why bring me into this? What does this have to do with me?" Ra's expression softened for a moment, almost as if he was trying to decide how much to reveal. "It's not just about your mother," he said. "It's about you too. You've been caught in the middle of a story that started long before you were born. A story that involves power, betrayal, and blood." I felt my stomach drop. The air in the warehouse seemed to grow heavier, the weight of his words pressing down on me. "What are you talking about?" "You'll understand soon enough," R said, his tone no longer as cold. "But before you do, you need to hear the whole story. You need to know what your mother was really involved in. You need to know what she did, and most importantly, you need to know why she did it." While he stepped aside, motioning for me to follow him. I hesitated, but something in his eyes told me I had no choice. He was leading me toward the back of the warehouse, where a small door opened into a dimly lit office. Inside, there was a desk, covered in papers, old files, and a laptop. R sat down behind the desk and gestured for me to take a seat across from him. "I've been waiting for this moment for a long time," R said, pulling a file from the top of the pile and opening it in front of me. "Your mother thought she could erase the past, but everything she did, every decision she made, is in here. And now, it's time for you to see it." While he slid the file across the desk to me, and I opened it, my hands trembling. The first page was a series of photographs. Old, faded images of my mother, younger, standing with a group of people I didn't recognize. They were dressed in suits, their expressions stern, serious. My mother was among them, but her face was different, harder somehow. The photos were taken in what looked like a corporate setting, but there was something off about them, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. "What is this?" I asked, my voice low. "Well, what's going on here?" "These are the people your mother worked with," R replied, his eyes gleaming with a strange mix of satisfaction and something darker. "The people who were part of the life she left behind. And those people, well, they don't just forget. They don't forgive. And they never stop coming." He flipped the page, and I felt my breath catch in my throat. The next page was a report detailing a series of transactions and connections that seemed to involve illegal activity. Money laundering, shady business deals, and a network of people involved in criminal enterprises. My mind reeled as I tried to make sense of it. How was my mother connected to all of this? "Your mother wasn't just a regular person, you know," R said, leaning back in his chair. "She was part of something much bigger, a system of corruption that reached all the way to the top. And she didn't just work for them. She helped build it. She was one of their key players." I couldn't speak. My mind was racing, my thoughts a jumbled mess. This wasn't the mother I knew. This wasn't the woman who raised me. The mother who baked cookies, who taught me how to ride a bike, who hugged me when I scraped my knee. That woman couldn't be involved in these crimes. Could she? R must have seen the disbelief on my face, because he leaned forward, his gaze intense. "I know this is a lot to take in, but this is who your mother really is, who she was. And now, she has a choice to make. She can either face what she did, or she can watch everything fall apart. You can't stop it. No one can." I felt like the ground was slipping away from beneath me. The world I had known, the world that had seemed so secure and familiar, was falling apart. My mother, the woman who had always been my protector, had been hiding this dark, dangerous past. And now, it was too late to pretend it didn't exist. I had a choice to make now, too. I could walk away from all of this, return to the life I had known, and never speak of it again. Or I could confront the truth, face the consequences, and help my family piece together the shattered remnants of what had once been. But no matter which path I chose, there was one thing I knew for sure: our family would never be the same again. The next few days passed in a haze. The world felt like it was spinning around me, and I was caught in the middle of it all, struggling to keep my balance. The letter R, the warehouse, the documents, I couldn't shake them. It was as if they had seeped into every part of my life, changing everything I thought I knew. I could barely focus on school, let alone on any semblance of normality. Every conversation felt strained, every interaction with my family awkward and distant. I didn't know what to say to my mother, especially after everything I had learned. When I returned home from the warehouse, I found her sitting in the living room, waiting for me. Her face was drawn, tired, as if she hadn't slept in days. Her hands trembled slightly as she held a cup of tea, but she was trying her best to maintain the calm, composed demeanor she had always carried. "How was it?" she asked, her voice calm but tight, as if she already knew the answer. "Did you meet him?" I nodded, but my throat was dry. "I met him." Her face remained unreadable, but her eyes gave her away. There was a flicker of something, regret, fear, maybe both. Before she composed herself again, "I'm sorry, sweetheart," she whispered. I should have told you everything long ago. I should have trusted you to handle the truth. But I thought I could protect you from it. I thought you would be better off not knowing. I could see the pain in her eyes, and for a moment, I felt the weight of the past settle between us. My mother wasn't just the woman I had known my whole life. She was a person who had lived through things I could never imagine, things I wasn't sure I was ready to understand. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I asked, my voice softer now. "What didn't you tell me about your past? About everything?" She took a deep breath and set her tea down. Her hands rested on her lap as if gathering strength, as if preparing to finally share the story that had remained hidden for so long. "When I met your father, I was running from my past," she began, her voice shaky but steady. "I had done things that I'm not proud of. I was involved with people who didn't care about the consequences, people who used power and money to control everything. They didn't care who they hurt, as long as they got what they wanted." I sat down across from her, feeling the weight of her words settle heavily between us. "I was young," she continued, hand naive. "I thought I could escape it, that I could build a new life, start fresh. When I met your father, it felt like a second chance. I thought if I married him, if I had children, maybe I could bury all the mistakes I'd made. I thought I could outrun the people from my past. But they never stopped looking for me, and eventually they found me." My mind raced. All this time, I had seen my mother as a woman of strength, someone who could handle anything life threw her way. But now, I was beginning to understand that her strength had been built on a foundation of fear, a fear of the past catching up with her. "R was one of them?" I asked, the pieces starting to fall into place. She nodded slowly. "Yes. He was part of the network I was involved with. He was one of the people who helped make things happen, who helped keep the wheels turning. But he wasn't like the others. He had his own agenda. He wanted power, and he didn't care who he had to hurt to get it." "But why keep it a secret? Why didn't you tell me when I was old enough to understand?" I pressed, trying to make sense of her choices. "I thought you would be better off not knowing," she said quietly. "I thought I could protect you from the truth, protect you from the consequences of my actions. But that was a mistake, because now you're part of this too. You can't escape it. No one can." Her words hung in the air, thick with the gravity of what she was telling me. The world I had known, the family I had trusted, was built on a lie. And now, I was a part of something I hadn't asked for, something I didn't know how to escape. "I need you to understand," she said, her voice urgent. "You don't know R the way I do. He's dangerous. He doesn't care about you or your family. He's using you to get what he wants, and he'll stop at nothing to make sure he gets it. He wants control. And if he can't get it through me, he'll go after you." The fear in her voice sent a chill through me. For the first time, I realized how much danger we were in. R wasn't just a man from the past, he was a threat that could destroy everything. "But why me?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Why involve me in this? What does he want with me?" "Because you're the key," she said, her voice strained. "You're the one thing I can't protect anymore. He knows that if he gets to you, if he can control you, he can destroy everything we've worked for. You're the one thing I can't hide from him." I sat back, my mind spinning. The weight of her words pressed down on me, and for the first time, I felt a sense of helplessness. How could I fight someone like R? How could I protect my family from a man who had already controlled so much of our lives without us even knowing? "I don't know what to do," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to fix this. How do I stop him?" My mother looked at me with a mixture of sorrow and pride. "I don't know if we can stop him, but we have to try. You have to be stronger than I was. You have to be willing to fight, even if it means risking everything." The words hung in the air, heavy with their implications. Could I really do it? Could I really take on the person who had held my family in his grip for so long? I didn't have the answers, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let R win. Whatever it took, I would protect my family, and I would find a way to take him down. Over the next few days, I did everything I could to prepare. I gathered information, trying to understand who R was, what he wanted, and how I could stop him. But the more I learned, the more I realized how deep this web of deceit and power went. R wasn't just a businessman with a vendetta. He was part of a larger network, one that had its claws in everything from politics to criminal enterprises. And the more I dug, the more I realized how little I knew. I spent hours at the library reading through old newspapers and government reports, trying to find any trace of R's past. But it was as if he had vanished from the public eye, erased from history. The more I uncovered, the more it felt like I was chasing shadows. One night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced, running through every possibility, every plan I had come up with to stop R. But no matter what I thought of, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were already too late, that the damage had already been done and there was no way to undo it. I sat at my desk, staring at the screen, when a message popped up on my phone. It was from my mother. "It's time to face him." I didn't need to ask what she meant. I knew what was coming. We had no more time to waste. Whatever was going to happen, it had to happen now. I grabbed my coat and headed out the door. It was time to stop hiding. Time to confront R, and to finally end the hold he had over our family. I wasn't sure what would happen when I faced him, but I was ready. We were done running. The time for secrets was over, and whatever happened next, I was going to fight to the end. The night was thick with tension, as if the very air was holding its breath, waiting for something to break. I stood outside the old warehouse, the same one where I had met R just days before, but this time it was different. I wasn't just walking in, hoping for answers. This time, I was walking in with a purpose, a plan, determined to confront the man who had haunted my family's past for so long. I checked my phone again. There was no new message from my mother, but I could feel her presence in my mind, her voice guiding me even though she wasn't physically with me. The weight of everything that had happened was starting to hit me all at once. The secret, the lies, the decades of pretending everything was normal. It was all catching up with us now. Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the rusted door of the warehouse, the hinges creaking loudly as I stepped inside. The same cold, musty air hit me, and the dim lights flickered overhead. The space was still as eerie as I remembered, but now it felt like the stage for a final act, one that would determine everything. "R!" I called out, my voice echoing through the empty space. "I know you're here. It's time to end this. Whatever game you've been playing, it's over." My words bounced off the walls, and for a moment there was silence. Then, from the shadows, a figure stepped forward, slow and deliberate. I wasn't surprised when R emerged, but something about his presence had changed. He no longer seemed like the calculated, cold figure I had encountered before. This time there was a different air about him, a sense of finality, as if this moment had been a long time coming for both of us. "You came," R said, his voice low, almost amused. "I didn't think you would. I thought you'd be too scared to face the truth." "Duh, I'm not scared anymore," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "You're not going to control me. You're not going to control my family any longer. This ends tonight." R studied me for a moment, his gaze penetrating, as if searching for some sign of weakness. "You think you have control over this, over what's been set in motion. You think you can just walk in here, confront me, and make everything go away. It doesn't work like that." "I don't care how it works," I said, my fists clenched at my sides. "I've seen what you've done, what you've been trying to do. You've been pulling the strings from the shadows, manipulating everyone in my family, including my mother. And I'm done letting you get away with it." Ra's smile faded, and his eyes darkened. "You think you understand what's at stake here? You think you know what your mother's really involved in. Let me tell you something. She's not the only one with blood on their hands. You too are part of this now. There's no going back. I'm not like her. I shot back. I don't make deals with people like you. You're wrong, R said, his voice colder now. You're already in this. You've always been in this. Your mother's past doesn't just go away because she wants it to. It doesn't disappear because you choose to ignore it. And you're right. There's no going back now. The only question is, what are you willing to do to fix it? I didn't respond at first. What could I say? What could I do to stop a man like R? He had the power, the resources, the connections to make our lives a living hell. My mother had spent so many years trying to bury the truth, and here I was, standing on the brink of it all coming out into the light. I knew that no matter what happened next, our family would never be the same. But was I willing to sacrifice everything to protect it? R stepped closer, his movements slow and deliberate. He wasn't intimidated. He wasn't afraid. He was in control, as he always had been. And I realized, with a sickening clarity, that I had been playing into his game from the very beginning. You still don't get it, do you? He said, his voice low, almost a whisper. You think you're going to walk out of here, hold on to your precious little world, and forget about all of this? It's not that simple. You're already tied to me whether you like it or not, whether you accept it or not. You're wrong, I said, my voice shaking but firm. You're not the one who controls my life. I make my own choices. I've seen what you've done to my family, and I won't let you do it to me. Not anymore. R raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. And what do you think you can do? You're just a kid. What power do you have? What do you think you can change? I took a deep breath, summoning the strength I didn't know I had. I may not have power right now, but I know what's right. And I won't stop until I expose you. You can't hide forever. The truth will come out. R's smile faded, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. An emotion I couldn't place, but one that made me feel like I was winning, even if just a little. He didn't say anything for a long time, his gaze lingering on me, studying me as if trying to figure out what I was going to do next. Finally, he spoke again, his voice low and menacing. You have no idea what you're up against. You think you can fight me. You think you can just walk away from all this. You think you can expose me and walk free. I've seen people like you before, people who think they have the upper hand, who think they're playing the game. But you're not in control, and you never will be. I'll take my chances, I said, my heart pounding in my chest. Because no matter what you've done, no matter how far you've gone to control my family, I will never let you win. This ends now. For a moment, there was silence between us. The tension in the air was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. Then, slowly, R raised his hands, palms out, as if surrendering. But the gesture wasn't one of defeat. It was one of calm before the storm. I'll give you credit, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You've got guts. But that won't save you. Nothing will save you once you've crossed this line. Before I could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed through the warehouse, followed by the unmistakable sound of doors opening and closing. I turned instinctively, and to my shock, several men in suits entered, their faces emotionless and cold. They didn't speak, but their presence was enough to make my heart race. R didn't flinch. He stood unmoving as the men surrounded us. They were here to back him up, to ensure that no matter what I did, there would be no escape. You see, R said, his voice taking on a new, almost predatory tone. You think you have control, but you don't. You never did. And now, you're going to learn the hard way that the truth doesn't set anyone free. I looked around, my mind racing. There was no easy way out. No obvious solution to this mess, but something inside me refused to give in. I wasn't going to let R win, not now, not ever. I'm not afraid of you, I said. My voice steady despite the fear twisting in my gut. and I won't stop. I'll make sure everyone knows the truth." R's smile returned, colder and more calculated than before. "You'll regret that decision, I promise you. You think you're doing the right thing, but you have no idea what you're up against." As the men in suits moved in closer, I knew this confrontation was far from over. In fact, it felt like the beginning of a new chapter, one that would define everything. My family's past, R's power, and my own future were all hanging in the balance. And no matter what happened next, nothing would ever be the same again. But I wasn't backing down. Not now, not ever. This was my fight, and I would see it through to the end. The men in suits closed in around me, their steps heavy and purposeful, a wall of silent intimidation. They didn't need to say a word for me to understand that they were here for one thing: to make sure I couldn't get away. To ensure that whatever I had planned, whatever courage I thought I had, would come to a screeching halt. But despite the overwhelming odds, I couldn't let fear take over. I had come too far, learned too much, and now there was no turning back. R watched the men move, his cold smile never leaving his face. He was enjoying this. He enjoyed the power, the control he had over people. Over me, over my family. But I wasn't going to let him win. I wasn't going to be the pawn in his game any longer. "I told you this would end badly," R said, his voice like a soft whisper in the otherwise still air. "You don't get it, do you? You can't take down what's already been built. You can't undo the damage that's been done." "I don't have to undo it," I said, standing my ground, my fists clenched. "I just have to stop you from doing more. I have to make sure you don't hurt anyone else." R chuckled darkly, shaking his head. "You really believe you can stop me? Do you think you can expose me and walk away unscathed? I have too much power, too many resources. You're just a kid." "I'm not a kid anymore," I said firmly. "I'm done being afraid. And I'm done letting you control everything." He stepped closer, his voice dropping low as if speaking only to me. "You don't understand, do you? You've already crossed a line. There's no going back now. You're a part of this whether you want to be or not. You can't escape what your mother did. You can't escape what you've already done by trying to fight me." I looked into his eyes, and for the first time, I saw something in him that I hadn't seen before. A hint of desperation. It was subtle, but it was there. He wasn't as invincible as he liked to think. And that realization gave me strength. R had always been in control because he'd made everyone believe that he was untouchable. But no one was truly invincible. Not even him. The men in suits were closing in, but I wasn't backing down. Not now. I took a step forward, feeling the tension in the room rise. Every muscle in my body was screaming at me to turn and run, to find a way out of this. But I knew that running wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't make things better. It would only let R continue his reign of terror. "I won't stop," I said, my voice steady. "I'll keep fighting until the truth comes out. You won't control us anymore." Ra's eyes narrowed. He wasn't used to people defying him, not like this. For a moment, I thought he might retaliate, might make a move that would end everything right here. But instead, he stepped back, his expression hardening. "You think you can expose me. You think you can take me down with just your words. I don't need to control you. I just need to make sure you never get the chance to speak the truth." "Then do it," I said, my heart racing. "Do whatever you have to do. Because no matter what happens, it won't change the fact that the truth is coming. It's already too late for you." Ra's smile faltered, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. It was almost imperceptible, but it was there. The cracks in his facade were starting to show. "You're playing a dangerous game," he said, his voice cold. "And you're going to regret it. But you're right about one thing. It's already too late for me." Before I could respond, I heard a faint noise from the other side of the warehouse. I turned my head just in time to see a shadow move quickly across the floor. My breath caught in my throat as I realized what was happening. The sound of footsteps grew louder, and then, without warning, the door at the far end of the warehouse swung open. The men in suits immediately turned toward the door, their expressions darkening. And then, as if to confirm my suspicions, a familiar face stepped through the threshold. My mother. She walked into the warehouse, her eyes scanning the room with purpose. She wasn't alone. Behind her, a group of people emerged, people I didn't recognize but who looked just as determined as she did. My heart skipped a beat. My mother had brought backup. Real backup. People who weren't afraid of R, people who weren't afraid of the system he had built. "Mom," I breathed, taking a step toward her. She didn't look at me directly, but I could see the faintest smile on her lips, the kind of smile that told me she had a plan. "I think it's time to end this," she said quietly, her voice unwavering. R turned to face her, his expression shifting from confident to confused. You think you can stand against me now?" "Not me," she replied, her voice filled with authority. "But we can, together." Duh. The people who had followed her into the warehouse were not just bystanders. They were powerful, influential figures. People who had been part of the network R had built, but who had come to realize the depth of his corruption and manipulation. They had seen the damage he had caused, and they were ready to take him down. And with them, my mother had brought the truth that would finally break his hold on everything. "You think you can use me to stay in control?" My mother continued, her voice steady. "But you've underestimated us. You've underestimated me. This time, the truth is going to come out, whether you like it or not." R's face twisted with rage. "You don't get it, do you? You think you can just undo everything I've done? You think you can just walk away from this and pretend it never happened?" "No," my mother said calmly, stepping forward. "I'm not walking away. I'm taking back everything you've stolen. And I'm making sure you never hurt anyone again." The tension in the room reached its peak as the people who had once been loyal to R moved toward him, surrounding him. There was no more room for doubt, no more room for his manipulation. The walls he had built around him were crumbling. "I'm done hiding," my mother said, her eyes locking with mine. "I've spent my whole life running from this, trying to protect you. But now it's time to face the truth. All of it. And no matter what happens, I'm going to make sure you and your brother never have to live in fear again." R's expression darkened, his fists clenching in fury. But even he couldn't stop what was coming. The web he had built, the lies he had woven to control our lives, was falling apart. And for the first time in years, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. The truth was coming, and nothing could stop it. With a final, defiant look at R, my mother turned to face me. "We're not finished yet," she said, her voice filled with resolve. "But we will be. We'll expose everything. We'll show the world what you've done, and we'll make sure you're held accountable." I nodded, a sense of calm settling over me. The battle wasn't over. But for the first time in my life, I felt like we were finally on the right side of it. R stood in the middle of the warehouse, surrounded by the people who had once been his loyal followers, now turning against him. And I knew that this time there was no escaping the consequences of his actions. The fight for our family's future had just begun. But for the first time, I knew we had the strength to win. It was over. The truth had been set free. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe and like the video.